Greetings, you beautiful humans. My name is Lyvonne Proverbs. I'm a body and sex positive light and shadow worker. I'm a preacher, poet, educator, transformational speaker, seminar leader, workshop facilitator, panelist, spiritual life coach. I does all the things. All the things are done by moi. Thanks to my creator and my ancestors. I am so delighted to be sharing a nugget from an experience that I've been sitting on for a little bit, because I just had to process it. It was just that rich and just that juicy. But I was fortunate, blessed enough to be a part of Auburn Seminary's Mountaintop Gathering in Oakland, California last month. And I lived in Oakland for a few years, and I remember moving there and thinking, oh, this is the home of the Black Panthers. It's about to be lit, protests every day. And I got there and not so much. Why? Because of the tech industry. The tech boom has overrun the Bay Area. There is just mass gentrification happening everywhere. A lot of families that have been there for generations are being forced north and east of the Bay. In San Francisco, $100,000 is the poverty line. In Oakland, across the bridge in Alameda County, $80,000 is the poverty line, which is just wild. And my housing advocate friends who taught me this term about our kin who are unsheltered, right? Not homeless, but unsheltered. Because when you say unsheltered, it humanizes people, and it then puts the onus on us as those who are privileged and powerful to then do the work to eradicate the chances, the presence of those who are living without homes. Like my brother, Reverend Jerry McCant says, housing is a public health issue. Housing is a basic human right. And so with all of that sort of careening through my spirit, we gathered, Auburn Seminary gathered 150 national faith leaders. I mean, folks who were Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Baha'i, Buddhist, agnostic, not necessarily religiously affiliated, but spiritually grounded. There are folks who practice African tradition religions, also known as ATR. So it was just gorgeous. And so being in that space was inherently subversive. My presence was subterfuge, to use Pastor Kenesha Billingsley's words, that here I am, this Black woman spiritual leader who is in this very tech-driven space, right? Admonishing people, don't be data-driven, be spirit-driven. That's countercultural. So, I just love there because I love all the shenanigans of being a rabble rouser for justice. So the Mountaintop Gathering called us to think through how we can enact in the world to make a more just and equitable space for all of creation, right? And so it was critical for me to see this in action because, one, as I grow into my voice as a national faith leader, as I think about how I'm carving out safe, protected space for healing and transformation, I need to know, what are all the tidbits that are happening in other faith communities? And so I identify as a womanist, and Auburn Seminary centered womanism. And it was the first time that I had ever seen womanism centered in a predominantly white space. So I want to talk about a view from the mountaintop, how womanism is going to save us. Now, if you're not familiar with the term womanist, it was coined by Alice Walker in her 1979 seminal text, In Search of Our Mother's Gardens. Now, this has the word womanist has a robust definition. In fact, it's 4 whole parts, okay? But every part will help you to get another part of your life. My favorite part of the definition is womanist is to feminist as purple is to lavender. Womanist is to feminist as purple is to lavender. What does that mean? Think about feminism as lavender. Sure, it's in this purple family. It's a hue of sorts, but purple is a deeper, richer shade. Why? Because Black women's lived experiences go deeper than white women's lived experiences. Now, am I saying that white women don't go through shit? Absolutely not. They absolutely do. However, because as Black women, we live at the intersection of race and gender in a racist, sexist society, we cannot separate our Blackness from our identity, nor our womanhood from our identity. And if we're being 1000% honest, white women suffragettes were not marching for the voting rights of Black women in the early 20th century. I'm gonna just let that breathe for a second. So womanism centers the lived experiences of Black women, Black cis women, Black trans women, so Black femmes. If you're a Black woman, you're a Black woman, okay? However, what we have failed to do is to see the value in womanism in our own lives. And I'm talking about society writ large, not me as a Black woman. Womanism saved my life, and womanism is going to save us. The reason why womanism is purple is because the deeper, richer experiences of Black women carve out a different way of thinking, being, living for us. We are, in the words of Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, intersectional beings. It means that we cannot extricate any part of our identity from how we present or show up in the world. Hip-hop womanist scholar Ebony Janice Moore says that womanism is inherently intersectional. And so almost saying intersectional womanism or womanism is intersectional is redundant because Black women cannot remove any part of their identity from how they show up physically in the world, right? You can look at someone and not necessarily tell that they're queer. You cannot look at me and tell that I'm not Black. It's just the way that it is. So for folks who are multi-marginalized, think about young, poor, queer, trans girls, right? That's probably who's differently abled and sitting in a Southern Baptist pew. That's probably the most marginalized person in the universe. But if we can create a world that is safe, just, and equitable for this young person, how much safer, just, and equitable will it be for all of us who are absolutely privileged? And the mountaintop experience was beautiful because even though it was a predominantly white space, Black women's voices were centered. I had never been around so many Black trans women in one space. I think there were maybe like 5 or 6 beautiful Black trans women. Whenever we did small group work, maybe 3 or 4 people, I take up a lot of space. Y'all see, I run my mouth for a living. I have opinions. I'm typically not afraid to express them. But I have to be intentional about creating space for others who are maybe not as vocal as me. But even people who were quiet, right? Because introverts like to process internally and need some time to work that out. They would wait for me to speak. Every group I was in waited for me to open my mouth before they adjusted. Black women were given the mic at every turn. And it got to the point where during this ongoing art project that we had going, sort of capturing all the really standout moments from our time together, that the words that ended up in the mural were, Black women have never wanted a freedom that did not include everyone. Black women have never wanted a freedom that did not include everyone. So there are some people who want to make this country great again when it has never been great. There are some people in this country who long for the good old days where unless you are a straight, rich, white, Christian man, there's no such thing as a good old day on the continent of the United States. Like, ever. So when we think about how womanism is going to save us, it's going to save us because when we center the experiences of Black women who know how to thrive, who know how to make ways out of ways of their ancestors, of their gods, of their community, of their sisterhood. Sisterhood has saved me countless times. Black women have saved me countless times. Black women have saved this nation. Talking about elections in the South. Talking about protesting and saving brothers and demanding justice for those who were gunned down by police brutality. I'm talking about Ayanna Pressley and her cohort, her squad, right, who are making waves in Congress. I'm talking about the teachers who encouraged you when everyone else told you that you wouldn't be nothing. I'm talking about the preachers who preach liberation and self-love and self-acceptance when other people want to preach fire and brimstone and damnation and want to send you to hell when the world that we're living in is a whole hell by itself. This is the view from the mountaintop. Womanism is going to save us. So find a womanist, thank a womanist, cite a womanist, love a womanist, pay a womanist, hire a womanist, so that we can create a more just and equitable world. Not tomorrow, not in the by and by, but today. My loves, I hope that this message finds you well. And if it's not well, it's not the end.